Hello everyone and welcome to our second week of online classes. We are going to be discussing housing this week, and I apologize because this video is getting to you later than expected. It has been a very crazy week. I want to remind you to do homework, Unit 9 in your Ventures books if you can, and all of you should have access to USA Learns now. Please let me know if you have any questions about that. Anyways, let's get started. Like I mentioned, we are learning about housing. So here is the vocabulary for levels 2, 3, and 4 associated with the book that you are assigned. So blue book, level 2, green book, level 3, purple book, level 4. And I'll give you a few seconds to look these over. Because our unit is about housing, we are actually looking more into rentals. So some of the objectives that we will look at in this unit are how to look for an apartment or a house, understanding rental agreements, understanding fair housing laws, as well as interpreting utility bills and communicating with utility companies. The first topic we will discuss today is looking for an apartment or house. Now this is for rent. Have you ever looked for an apartment or house for rent? When looking for housing, we all have different preferences. This might depend on family size, price, inclusions of utilities, or other factors. Usually, apartments or houses for sale will have an advertisement which will include different descriptions about the unit. Sometimes these descriptions might be written as abbreviations or shortened forms of the word or phrase. Let's look at this example. This is a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom home. A half bath means there will not be a tub in the bathroom. Let's look at some of the other features that this house has. You can see that they have brand new hardwood flooring, big kitchen. I'll jump down here. A washer dryer hookup, which means washer and dryer is not included, but they have hookups for you to put a washer and dryer in the unit. This right here is an abbreviation. HOA means Home Owners Association. Sometimes when you rent or purchase a house, you will have to pay a homeowners association fee. This means that the homeowners association makes the neighborhood look nice or gives it appeal or maybe even makes your neighborhood safer. We also have more practice if you would like. Right here is a good website to practice those abbreviations that you might come across when looking for an apartment or a house. Here are a few more abbreviations you can practice with. Now we've already discussed a couple of these abbreviations. BR would stand for bedroom. BA would stand for bathroom. LG would stand for large. Okay, and I can let you do the rest on your own, but it is good to know the different abbreviations that you might see in an advertisement for a rental property. The next part of our lesson is understanding rental agreements, or the conditions of a lease. The landlord and the tenant must sign an agreement called a lease. Now, it is important to know what a tenant and a landlord is. The tenant is the person renting the unit or house. The landlord is the person leasing the unit or house. A lease is a formal agreement about the rules of renting. It is legal documentation and can differ depending on the landlord. It may also clarify the responsibilities of the tenant and of the landlord. Things it might include are the terms of living, or when the renter will move in and out, payment agreements, descriptions of utilities, and the conditions of living on the premises. Here is just an example of a lease you might see, and it's an activity so you can put in the different answers. Remember, for example, this lease agreement made on, remember that there's a date right here, between Ronald Smith as landlord, and there must be another name right here as tenant. Some other things to look at would be the location and description. Location is where. The term, when. So when will it begin and when will it end? The payment would be right here, the rent to pay. Also a security deposit, a deposit that you might get back at the end of your lease agreement, depending on the conditions that, if the conditions are good, that you left the apartment in. If it looks like it was, like it did when you first moved in, you would get your security deposit back. Tenant rights versus landlord rights. On the next slide, we will talk about the Fair Housing Act, which gives tenants certain rights, but it is important to know that there are tenant rights and landlord rights. Some examples of tenant rights include the right to quiet enjoyment, the right to livable conditions, the right to a home free of lead and poisoning, as well as certain levels of privacy in the rental property. This means that the landlord cannot just enter your apartment or your house. Some of the landlord rights are protection of income investment and the right to evict tenants if not complying with lease agreements. Income investment might be saving and keeping their money safe, and the right to evict tenants if not complying. If you do not pay your rent, the landlord has a right to remove you from the premises. Understanding fair housing laws. The Fair Housing Act started during the Civil Rights Movement in the 1960s. The 7 classes of people it protects are those of race, color, national origin, religion, sex, familial status, which is of having children, as well as disabilities. It is illegal to discriminate in the sale or rental of properties. It is important to know your rights if you believe you are being discriminated against for any of these reasons. You can also look for more information on the www.hud.gov website. This way you can understand what these laws mean, and if you have had problems in the past, to make sure that that does not happen again, because a landlord cannot discriminate based on any of these bases. Here is an example of a website that we could look at to look at a utility bill. How to read and interpret your monthly utility bill. Now this one is an example of water, sewage, trash, and recycling. Right here you might see the services provided, for example, water, and the fees associated with each service. So water, sewer, trash, and recycling. It does not show it on this bill, but it is important to know your account number associated with your bill, as well as the bill date and or the cycle. Interpreting utility bills and communicating with utility companies. There's a note in one of our books that says, some cities provide gas, electricity, water, garbage collection, wastewater removal, and other utilities. In other areas, these are provided by private companies. In some places, each service is handled by a different provider. In others, the same provider delivers 2 or more of these services. So, like we talked about before, you will receive a bill, a utility bill, that will show you what is broken down within the bill, like water, electricity, sewage, trash and recycling. So you can get a good idea of what it says and what it means. It is important to note that utility bills can be hard to understand. Because of this, utility companies provide explanations of services and charges on the back of their bills and often on their websites as well. Here is an example of someone named Joy who moved out of her apartment July 20th. She received a bill from her cable company and they charged her for the whole month of July. She wants to call them about the bill. Here are some questions the representative might ask, such as, what's your account number? Who am I speaking to? And how can I help you? It is important on the phone to consider explaining in detail what problems you might encounter when looking at your bill. It is also important, like I mentioned, to read the terms and conditions of the bill. They have explanations of what the cost would be. So it is important to look that over every month, and also see if there's anything wrong with it, or if there's anything that maybe wasn't your fault or that you might have a question about, so that the utility company can be the one to answer it for you. Let's talk about some grammar. I like this subject of grammar, using can, could, will, or would, because it is very interchangeable. You can use any of these words in place of another one. I have 4 examples using your names of things you could say. For example, the first one, lady, could you fix the washer? I could also replace it with any of the other words. Lady, can you fix the washer? Lady, will you fix the washer? Lady, would you fix the washer? It's nice to know that we can interchange these words if it is used at the beginning of the sentence. Now this grammar is a little bit different. It is conditional sentences with would, could, and might. Let me just read this to you quickly, which says, conditional sentences consist of a dependent clause and a main clause. The dependent clause begins with if. Use a comma after an if clause at the beginning of a sentence. Conditional sentences can be real or unreal. Real means the situation in the sentence is possible. Unreal means the situation isn't possible. It is imaginary. In unreal conditional sentences, the form of the be verb in the dependent clause is were for all persons. If the clause if I were you is used for giving advice. Okay, so like it said, we have real and unreal conditional. So one of these examples is, this is unreal. If we had class, we would come every Tuesday and Thursday. Now, it is important to know that this is as if we were going to use it in the past. If we had class, we would come every Tuesday and Thursday. We use would when we are 100% sure or certain, and we use could if you are less certain. So, although it is an unreal statement, because we are not having class right now, if we had class, we would come every Tuesday and Thursday 100%. Every Tuesday and Thursday. Another example, I'll just do this next one with you, and then I'll let you do the other ones. If Mario, we change this to a past tense verb, ate, A-T-E, a lot of candy, now 100% of the time we would use would. He would get sick, he could get sick, or he might get sick. Now the great part about this is that we could use any one of these. If Mario is certain he will get sick, 100% sure, we could use would. He would get sick. If it's a possibility or less of a chance, we could also say could. He could get sick. Or he might get sick. Any one of those would work. I will let you do the last ones by yourself. Thank you so much for listening to this video. Like I said, I'm sorry it's coming to you later. It's not as long, but I think you will do great on the homework. If you have any questions, always text me or even call me and I can help you out. I hope you're having a wonderful week. Please enjoy your Easter. Enjoy the time with your family. Please stay safe, and I will see you next time. Bye.